How do you find the one? What happens if that one just completely flips your life upside down? That's what we're talking about in this episode of Happiness Happens. And my guests today, you're just absolutely going to love. They are so insightful, so kind, I just loved our conversation. I don't even have the words. And we met initially through podcasting because they have their own podcast, which I'll tell you about in a second, that you should definitely go and check out. And what I just loved so much about our conversation today is we talk about the healing journey that we need to take internally in order to put ourselves out there to potentially find the one. And even what that is, okay? So today on the podcast, I have Shanel and Ashley, and they are co-hosts of a podcast that I will tell you about in, again, just a second. But they are two young women respectively embarking on a transformative journey through the art of healing with their podcast called Soothing Her, H.E.R. They delve into many facets of healing, sharing their personal stories, expert insights, and discovering the incredible power of resilience on their show. They are creating a space which can be a guide to a world of healing, enduring, and restoring. Let's get into our conversation today with my incredible guests, Shanel and Ashley. Shanel and Ashley, welcome to Happiness Happens. I'm so excited to have you here today.
Thank you so
for
much
having
for
us.
having us.
I know. I'm so excited. We're going to have such a good conversation today. When the three of us met, we chatted over a Zoom call for a little bit and you started telling me about your podcast. And I was like, this is such a great idea for a show. And we'll talk a little bit into that today too. And then we started talking about the healing journey and how it never ends, and then we started talking about I don't know, just all these different things. And so I was like you need to come on the podcast. We need to have this conversation, and we're going to dive into so many different areas today. But first, before we go any further, I want to ask you, what does happiness mean to you?
What does happiness means to me? So this is Chanel speaking. Happiness means to me, goodness, I knew you were going to ask that question and I feel like I was ready, but the moment you're like, I don't want to have something rehearsed. But one thing that definitely stands out to me and resonates so deeply is just moments of my cup runneth over.
Mm.
I feel so full of joy and energy that I want to share it with the world. So that definitely shows up in the way that I speak, the way that I share moments with someone else, the way that I will behave, and the moment that I will welcome somebody else into my space as well, because it is calming, it is somewhere that I feel safe and secured. And then in times when I don't feel all right, I will take a teaspoon of that cup runneth over moment and remind myself that there's still joy in those kind of funky moments. Pour that into it, and then of course I'm not even going to feel alive immediately, but then that definitely uplifts my energy from then.
I love that. I love that so much because, I like that you said just like a teaspoon of it, because I think there's this notion that happiness has to be this one big thing all the time, but this big grandiose, and it's not,
It's
it's just
not, I
not.
know exactly, it's not. You just have to constantly, it's a choice that you have to make. It's a choice that
Yeah,
you have to keep making.
I love that. Ashley, what does happiness mean to you?
So, yes, hello everyone. This is Ashley. Happiness to me means that you are just completely at peace
Mm.
with who you are as a person, where you are in life, where you're going in life. You are fully content with everything about who you are as a person. So you've acknowledge and accept all of your strengths, all of your weaknesses, every little flaw that everyone has ever pointed out to you, even though you probably already know what they are, but you constantly hear it all the time. But you just accepted that, and you are constantly striving to become even a better version of yourself each and every day. So you're constantly looking for ways to evolve, constantly looking for ways to transform.
Mm.
And you just have this abundance of joy just like radiating from you that other people can tell as soon as you walk in the room. Like you are just completely at peace.
I love that. I
Love
love
that.
that
Yes.
so much. One way that I describe happiness as well is through a deep inner peace and having that connection to self. And I think that's so important. And I think that it's not something that's easily accessible to everyone all the
No,
time.
Mhm.
no.
I think it could take time to get there. Would you agree?
I certainly agree because as humans, we go through so many different circumstances and
Yeah.
challenges. And when they come our way, we are beaten down so badly that the energy alone that it takes to get back to a fighting chance, we feel like that's all the energy we have. And we want to preserve that so badly that we don't want to reach for something else because we're scared of disrupting that safe space. So like, okay, I'm comfortable, but am I happy there? So it's really something that we have to deep go down inside and try to find it and really say that I want to be happy in that moment or in that time of my life. I'm choosing to really be happy
I love
Yeah,
and
I agree
continue
as
to
well.
remind ourselves.
Yeah, definitely. Because to me, happiness is also a choice when life continues to come because life does life, and there's sometimes it can get out of control. And there's just certain things that we just can't control that comes our way. But at the end of the day, it's choosing to see the lessons and some of those things, choosing to see, well, it could always be worse, or this could always happen, but being grateful and also expressing a little bit of gratitude there as well. And not understanding that every day do have to choose to connect with yourself. You do have to choose to find that inner peace. It doesn't have to be a huge gradual step, but just little baby steps even go a long way.
That's
Absolutely.
beautiful. That's beautiful. One thing that I love so much that the both of you do together. So you're both lawyers. Okay, let's set the scene. Let's set the scene
Oh,
for everyone right now. You're both
just
lawyers.
me.
And
Just me, actually.
oh, just
Yes,
you. I
Ashley.
thought you were both
Just
lawyers.
me. No.
No.
That'd be
Oh.
great. Chanel would make a
Yeah.
great lawyer.
I was gonna say, like, I thought both of
Thank
you were lawyers this
you.
whole time.
No, I'm in wealth management.
Oh,
Yes.
wow,
Yeah.
that's incredible. Okay, so let me change my thought then. It's not really changing my thought, but so you're both powerhouse women
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
who are doing really incredible things with your lives. And one thing that I love that you're doing together is your podcast, and the show's called Soothing Her, H.E.R, and stands for Healing, Enduring, Restoring. Correct. I'm
All
correct.
right.
Yes. Okay.
Yes.
Okay, good. And so what I would love to know is what was that catalyst moment where you both realized that you needed to have an outlet to bring women together, or people who identify as women, or like however you want to phrase that, into this collective of helping people heal from all of the things that they've experienced in their lives?
Yeah.
Well, I think for me, it was really Chanel.
Teamwork.
It was teamwork, but she really helped kind of bring me out of my shell just because for me, my catalyst moment was a traumatic heartbreak that happened about over a year ago. And just a little bit of, or I guess a short story version of this is just, well, I was with someone for 4.5 years
Mm.
and we were engaged for almost a year, doing all the wedding preparations and leading up to the week of the wedding. I received a message from another person on Instagram that they were in like a friends with benefits relationship with my fiance, and that had been going on for 2 years.
Oh
So
my gosh.
yeah, very, very
Mind blowing.
gut-wrenching week. And I think during that time and during that year afterwards, I was going through really intense therapy. And Chanel was really, honestly, the very one person that was just there right by my side, like checking in on me, dragging me out of the house, not allowing me to like stay in all the time. It's like, no, we're gonna do this. I'm dragging you to church with me, and just like getting me out. And she came to me with the idea of, I want to do something. I want to talk about my own journey too. And that's when she even opened up to me about her healing journey. And I really could relate to her because she kind of is the only person I know that has gone through something similar
Hmm.
and can understand exactly like the different stages of emotions that I was feeling at that time. And she thought of this wonderful idea because she also writes poetry too. So she
Hmm.
was just wanting to find ways to form some type of outlet for women to heal, to have these conversations, because I know that this story is just one of thousands that happen to, and for women, it's even worse. Women that have actually been married, women that actually have had kids with this person, and finding out all of this happens. So it was really her encouragement to come to be like, hey, like, I know you may not be feeling 100%, but maybe this is your purpose for going through this, is
Hmm.
to share your story. And it might help other women have the strength that you did to just walk away and call off the wedding and not even think twice and look back.
Hmm.
And so that for me was the catalyst. And then I can be very shy and quiet. And of course, during that time, I really wanted to just not talk to anyone and just be in my shell completely. But I thank her for that encouragement because it has helped me find my voice in such a very like challenging time and the most difficult time I've ever experienced.
I couldn't even imagine. And
You're so strong, Ash. I'm proud of
here,
you.
oh yeah, like that's like incredible. And I will caveat this and say too, it was still a choice for you to decide to not get married because some people would just be like, well, it is what it is, and I'm continuing on.
Yes.
And
Mhm.
like that point of walking away from something like that,
Mhm.
that is not an easy choice in and of itself because you have your whole life. And I think, my listener right now listening to this can relate. Like you go through a heartbreak and you have your whole life planned with someone and the
Mhm.
idea of what your life is going to look like. And in a split second, it's gone, whether it's by your own choice of, hey, we're no longer a good fit for each other or
Mhm.
something else coming in.
Versus that. Yes, absolutely.
Yeah. Yeah. Chanel, what are your thoughts?
I mean, you're both definitely right. I commend Ash. I've seen her risen from the ashes of the situation.
Mm,
And it's just a testament to, I think, the work that we are doing and the work we intend to do in the future.
mm,
None of us want to go through pain, of course, but it happens and it is with an intention. I see from the highmost from God. We have a reason because we will not be able to speak of the story and share the story. So as
yeah.
Ash shared, I went through something very similar just 3 years, about 2.5 years before her. I was married for 7, got divorced, and it was really hard, really hard. I mean, I had to go through that. I had built great friendships here in the US. I'm from the Caribbean, and that meant
Mm,
that I was away from home entirely by myself. My siblings, my parents were not beside me, and my friends here really held me up. Like
mm,
they held me and supported me. And then Ashley and I came on over way of introduction a few years after I was processing my divorce situation. And we were destined to become friends because what I had been through, just reminding her that you're not the only one and just letting her know this is kind of how I dealt with my stuff. This is what I'd recommend. You can take the advice based on how you feel because not everybody feels the same way, but I'm going to be right there beside you because I know what a situation like this can really do to someone who does not have the strength, who does not have the community of support that they could really rely on and benefit from and to really get back on their feet. And it can be really hard when you're in your own mind and you're in your own place. But heartbreak has a home, and that home is within yourself, with your friends, with your community, with people that you can find to really lift you up. And we wanted to create the Soothing Her podcast as a personal outlet because
mm,
even today, I don't really understand so much of my own pain. Like some of the questions from that time still go through my mind, and I'm questioning why did that happen? So there are moments that I am not no superhero, but I
mhm,
still feel those moments of pain. But then when Ash and I engage in conversation like on our podcast and with a few guests that we've had on, like it does get the mind going and have me thinking of certain things. And in those moments of conversation, even I can better understand certain things. And it just
mhm,
creating a space where we're both healing through that outlet and we're presenting that voice and platform to everyone out there that you're not the only one.
Mhm.
I
There's
love
the
that.
others who've been before you. There will be others after you. But how do we congregate and just really support each other together?
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. One thing that sticks out in my mind too is, and I feel like sometimes I'm able to look at things from an objective point of view, just from, having so many conversations on happiness happens with all kinds of people and lived experience and all of that. I'm also divorced. That is interesting though, because that was more by my doing. Like that was more by me realizing that I've grown and expanded so much as a person. And even though he was a really nice, like a mate, like he's a really nice
Yeah.
man, it
Yeah.
wasn't, it wasn't it
A
wasn't
continuous joy.
yeah, exactly.
Mm.
And honestly, I haven't really talked about it too much on the podcast
I'm
to
sorry.
begin with. So I'm like I stumble a little bit over my words a little bit because it's like, you know, that whole complex of like, well, how do you leave someone who's actually a really good person? And then it's like, yes, and there's all the things that I've internalized over the last, 9 years and realizations that we have in terms of like, does that love meet our own internal needs? Like, does that meet what we need. So how did you both start to like decode and separate the action that the person did to you with your self-worth? Because they're not the same, but they can feel the same.
Right.
Oh my
I think
goodness.
I'm still doing that right now.
You're like, let me know when you have the answer.
Yeah, I'm just like, I mean,
Mhm.
so for me, it took a lot of therapy. So I really went into EMDR therapy, which stands
Oh,
for eye movement desensitization and reprocessing. And I specifically sought that specialization when I was searching for therapists because I knew I had to see someone right away. Otherwise, I felt myself that I was just going to go crazy and just
yeah,
it's going to be a downward spiral from there.
yeah.
So I did a lot of research and I was like, what is good for people that have experienced that type of life-changing event or trauma. And one of the things that popped up was that. So I researched for a therapist in that. And it was she helped through that experience, she helped me go back to that day that I found that message came. It is really intense therapy because what
Yeah.
it's really doing is it's changing the traumatic event that happened, and it's shifting it to a different part of your brain. So that way it takes out the sensitivity, sensitiveness out of it so that you can
Hmm.
be able to talk about it. And it's shifting it over to a side of your brain where you can now think logically through what happened and separate the action from who you are as a person. And through that process, I did that for about a year and I just finished this past December. So
Wow.
from August through December of last year, I was in that intense like therapy, and she was taking me back to that same day, and it was July 4th, 2022, of the from the moment I woke up that morning to getting that message, reliving that whole week of just canceling everything, sending out the sorry, the wedding's not happening. And unfortunately, like having to go talk to our mentors that were involved
Hmm.
because we went to like premarital counseling
Hmm.
and to talk to them about all of that. So I was reliving all of that stuff on top of that, having to go get myself checked because this person, wasn't using protection and was
Oh,
putting
yeah.
my own self, like I knew that I could possibly have been at risk for whatever, thank God that I wasn't. But at the same time, like just those moments and those thoughts that I was experiencing that whole week, she kept bringing me back. And what she told me was that, yes, that happened, but your value isn't attached to that just because someone couldn't see
Hmm.
your and that action that that person did was a choice that has no reflection of who you are because they could have chosen to end the relationship. They could
Hmm.
have chosen other things when they chose to do that instead. So it took
Exactly.
a lot of working through that and understanding what it means to also forgive, not for that person, but for myself, and
Hmm.
forgiving myself for attracting that person in my life, taking accountability for my state of mind that I was in at that time that I met that person, and how I was in that relationship, and then
Hmm.
just working through, separating the two.
Okay. I have so many things that I like that are going through my mind because I see myself in this in so many ways. Like,
Yeah.
okay, one thing that became really apparent to me in the whole process was the actions that people do and the
Mhm.
way that people are, the way that people speak, like the things that they do, they don't do, whatever. All of that comes from an unhealed place
Mhm.
within them that they're not even aware of. And
100%.
it is
Yes.
so
I have
crazy
no
because
clue.
they have no clue. And like
No.
we take that on for our own selves as if it's our thing to fix either within us or that other person. But it doesn't like and it's interesting too because then it's like a mirror and it's a parallel to our own selves of exactly like you said, like the type of person that you were to attract someone like that into your life. Like what is, and this isn't like it's kind of like a rhetorical question, but like, it's us understanding as human beings, like what is it within us? What is it within our own selves that feels so unhealed and so broken, or something might be missing, or like we need something else, that we sacrifice what we truly deserve for this is good enough.
Hmm.
Mhm.
But and then it's like that catch
Many
22 of
things.
like, some people will say like, okay, but at some point it's like if you're always waiting for something to be better and better and better, then you're never being present and accepting what you have now. But there's so much power in understanding what exactly your needs are and how does someone else in your life complement that, but better yet, how you complement that within you so that whoever you attract in then supports that.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
They
Sorry, go
represent
ahead.
that, what you're looking
I'm
for.
off my soapbox.
I
I'm off.
mean, that is absolutely so powerful because you can walk into a situation as an amazing person. Of course, we all have our own faults. We all have our own
Sure,
weaknesses and
yeah.
things that make us seem bad to the other person. Nevertheless, we walk into a situation, relationship as a good person. And then this person, whatever personality that they've developed over the course of their own life, and they were in pain, and now that they've morphed into this person, they start to reenact that with you and portray that with you and treat you a certain way because this, as you said, this is how they feel. This is
Yeah.
how they're going to behave. And now you are being molded by that person's behavior because you're trying to either go into self-protection because you want to protect yourself and your feelings, but you're also sacrificing, just as you said, who you are because now you want to cater to what that person is asking you to become to fit their mold. So inadvertently, you start to now behave just like that person because that's what you see. And in my instance, I could say it 100%. He's the man of the house. What am I going to do as a woman? I'm going to follow the leader of the home.
Yeah.
So what you give to me is what I'm going to give back. And I'm not saying it in any particular way, but also just from my personality, I knew that my voice was taken away from me the moment I felt muted, the moment I could not behave in the way that I wanted to, the moment I couldn't say certain things because I was nervous of a reaction that was not healthy. And for me, it was okay, this was not naturally your personality. Before you met this man, you were this vibrant, you were outspoken, you were respectful. You saw things in the odd and you spoke about things that you thought were unjust. But here you feel you can't even say the good, the bad, the ugly. None of that can be said because you don't want to see the consequences of that. And then it just became a time, well, Chanel, you are dying inside. Who you
Mm-hmm.
are is not alive anymore. How do you get that person back? I started standing up for myself. I started talking. So it just becomes a matter of no, you are breaking that image, reflective image of that person inside of you, and you realize truly the person you are, you were, or you have been, and you want to become because you want to break that off, is just not aligned deeply with who you feel, with your morals, with your integrity, with your truest, honest self. You just realize that this does not suit me at all. Like I'm not in a healthy space. And how do I let that go? It takes a lot of strength. And based on how long you've been in a situation, you might continue to stay in it because you're fighting who you want to become
Mm-hmm.
with who you are presently. And how do you really break that off? And if you don't have the strength, you just say, well, throw the hands up and say, I can't do this anymore. I'm just going to stay because there's no way out of this situation.
Yeah. Exactly. It's like that catch 22. And
Yes.
that's a hard situation as well. I think a lot of the time, like a lot of the times I think there's this deep fear of what life looks like without or like what life looks like on the other side of whatever it is that
Yep.
you're in because you're
Yep.
comfortable, right? We get comfortable.
Absolutely.
But
Yeah.
like, would you say that life since even though very emotional, even though very challenging, and you've had to do like a lot of work that you probably never anticipated you ever had to. Would
Yeah.
you say if someone is in a situation like this or going through a situation like this right now and they're listening to this, how would you describe life on the side of choosing you?
It's
Mm.
so much better. It's so much better just because you feel somewhat liberated and stronger because you stood up for yourself and you said, that's not something that I deserve or want for me. And and ever since I made that choice to walk away, despite how painful it was, I still am going through that period of self-discovery and learning new things about myself that I probably wouldn't have even discovered if I was still with that person.
Yeah,
Exactly.
Yeah.
true. That is
Mhm.
Yeah.
so true.
I'm from the Caribbean again, so I'm gonna reference it to the most beautiful beach you've ever been on, the most crystal clear river flowing you've ever seen. It's a confidence that you just cannot even speak about. You can dream about it, but you can't even, like, you don't know how to describe it because you just feel like you're walking on the air because
Mm.
you think and you're reminded of the pain that you've been through. You survived it, you walked away. And then in every additional step that you take, sometimes people will judge you. And you have to remind yourself that despite the judgments, that you made a decision that was healthy for
Mm.
you and in the best interest of yourself, your future, and if there are any children involved, for the
Mm-hmm.
safety and the worthiness of those children involved. So, I mean, it's a beautiful, freeing place, as Ashley said. It's a place that you don't even know really exists until you take that step. And you will survive it. It's a reminder because people
Mhm.
feel just as you said, Simona, what am I gonna do? But you will survive it. Absolutely. You'll survive it.
Beautiful. What would you say? My next thought is if someone is like constantly hearing something negative about their situation from the people they love most, like that's a bad decision. You shouldn't do that. Or like, even though you know for you it's the right decision, but like that's a bad decision. Don't do that. Don't do this, don't do that. And it's like, of course, people tell us things and warn us and, give us all their own advice and perspective based off of their own lived experience, right? But how do you start to disassociate the desire to live for you versus the pleasing that might come with people who think you might be making a wrong choice?
Oh, great question.
It's a whole podcast.
I know, right? Yes, exactly. It's a whole podcast episode.
Yeah.
I would, my advice would be, or my counsel would be to just remember who you are deep down, what you feel deep down, because you are the one who's truly living in this situation. You are the one that's experiencing this every single day, how often it might be. These individuals who are providing the guidance to you get to walk away from that situation. They probably don't ever get to see it at all because you never know what really happened behind closed doors.
Yeah.
So, a reminder that you have the strength within yourself. You can certainly walk away. And if you feel like you don't have the strength, just know that what one little step that you will take will do for your future. So put whatever is behind you, because of course one of the biggest judges is going to be from society that, oh,
Mhm.
you left your partner, you're divorced. I mean, the stigma that will come from that, and even from yourself too, because you're going to crucify yourself thinking, why did I walk away? Why did I get a divorce? I'm a bad person and this and that. But it's just a recognition that you're doing it for you. You're doing it for you, and you get to live the life and you don't want to have any regrets.
Beautiful.
Mhm. I would echo 100% what Chanel mentioned, and really emphasizing on you. So those people are not in your shoes. They have no idea what you're going through. And even in my experience, I had to learn to quiet those voices. I had to learn to quiet what my family may have thought. I have to learn to quiet what his family might have thought, vendors, also extended family members and friends that I have met along the way. I just had to quiet everything out and just sit back and say, what do I need right now?
Yeah.
And whatever I need right now is the most important thing that matters to me. And unless that person is literally in your shoes, they will not understand. And so that is the advice that I would give, is just highly emphasizing, like, you are the most important thing right now. What do you need? And
Mm.
it's funny, one of my cousins gave me this funny, nice saying. She was like, you have to treat yourself like a baby. What does
Mm.
Ashley want to do? Does she need a nap? Does she want to go for a walk? Does she want to just sit on the couch and watch her favorite TV show for the 10th time over and over again and just relive those moments? Does she want
Yeah.
ice cream? Does she want to order something? Just talking to myself like that. And that's literally what I did for that whole first year afterwards. I was like, what do I need right now? I don't think I want to take a nap. I'm gonna go take a nap. I want to read. I'm gonna play a game. I'm gonna go for a walk.
Beautiful. I love
Yeah.
that. Where can my listener find you so they can connect with you?
They can find us on Instagram. So we are at soothingh.e.r on Instagram. They can also send us an email, soothingher@gmail.com. If any of what we've shared today has resonated with you, or you have your own personal testimony, like, we would love to share that. and just
Mm.
highlight these stories and transformation and what was your process like, just so that we can share resources with everyone. And then our podcast is on Spotify, which is free. It's just soothing H.E.R. And our listeners, you're able to download Spotify and listen for free.
Amazing. I love it. I have one last question. It's a question I ask all of my guests on the podcast. I've been asking it for, oh my gosh, I think probably like 3 years now at this point. And it doesn't matter who goes first, whoever wants to go first. What is one way my listener can create a little more happiness in their day, every day, starting today?
I think for me, it is giving myself a lot more grace than I do on a daily basis. It's one piece of advice that everyone has been telling me for so long, like, actually, just give yourself grace, give yourself grace. It's okay. And so that's one thing that I'm going to do starting today, is to just give myself grace for where I am right now,
Mm,
embracing where I am right now, embracing how far that I've come, embracing where I'm going to go, and realizing that some days, because I am still healing, it's okay to not be okay.
beautiful.
It's okay to not be okay.
I
Love
love
that.
that.
I would love to answer that. How can your listeners create a little more happiness in their lives every day? Visualize your day.
Mm,
I feel like when you create intentions about what it should look like, what it should feel like, you allow the freedom of mishaps to happen. But when they do happen, you're able to give yourself grace and say, well, I know this is just a setback, but the rest of the day is there and I can conquer it. I can get through this situation. So just set some positive precedents with having to think of what you want, like your day-to-day activities to look like. And then with a positive influence, it will turn out in the way that you're hoping to have that happen. But if something negative comes up, you're like, well, this is okay. This can pass through.
Mhm.
I love that. Beautiful. Thank you both so much for being here today. I've loved this conversation so much.
Same. Thank you so much, Simona. This was very, very lovely. Thank you for having both of
You're
us.
welcome. You're
Yeah.
So
welcome.
much.
You're welcome. And thank you so much for tuning into today's episode of Happiness Happens. I think a lot of us can see ourselves in some of these stories shared today. So be sure to connect with Soothing Her and just share your stories and share what you got from today's episode. Send me a message. I always love hearing from you. Thank you so much for being here today. I hope you have a beautiful week ahead. And remember that happiness happens when you're least expecting it.